Uganda. Welcome to another video, Footy Africa. And today, as usual, I have Chris. Chris, say how are you doing?
Hey, good, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm okay. I'm doing fine. I'm doing great. Thank you.
Good.
Hope everything is going okay with you over there.
Yeah, everything's fine here. A bit busy. It's a busy time of year. I'm sure, as people know, when you're in this side of football, even though it's a bit quieter with on the playing side, it's much busier on our side of things, where deals are happening and clubs are preparing for the new season. So yeah, keeping busy.
Yeah, a lot of signings going on. So I know you guys are busy now. You're up and down trying to make sure everything is in place for next season, for the
Yeah,
upcoming
that's true.
season.
That's true.
I just want to say thank you for that. People don't know how much it takes to just run all these things that go behind the scene. I know it's a lot of work, and
Yeah.
uh, and it takes a lot of hard work to just bring all these deals to go through.
Yeah, it does, and it's. I think it would surprise people how much time and how difficult it is to get deals done, and the amount of work that goes in from the client's point of view, from the club's point of view, from the agent's point of view. I won't mention names, but I did a PSL deal recently for a player that's moving from one PSL club to another, and we were working on it for probably 2 months
Oh,
from the club showing interest to yeah, probably close to 3 months from the club showing interest to getting the deal done. So, and that's just for a domestic deal. So that's how hard it actually is to get deals done. It's a lot of work and a lot of hours that goes into it, and a lot of back and
yeah,
forth. It's nice.
just
It's nice when you get it done.
yeah, it really feels nice. And just you saying that it has taken 2 months and it's locally, so I can't imagine how long it will take for a player moving from one country to another country. I know it will take even more time.
Yeah, because obviously, from the player's point of view, there's a lot of relocation involved, the logistical side of it. There's different aspects of a deal for a player that's moving from one country to another in terms of what they can offer the player to settle into the new country. You've got foreign quotas, you've got work permit rules. You've got to think of the player's family. So there's so much that goes into it, and it's a lot more. It's not as easy as maybe it looks to people watching the TV, seeing a deal go through as if it's probably been done in a day. It's a lot more complicated than that. That's for sure.
Yeah, I understand. I know there are a lot of things that go behind the scene, and it's really good to have you guys who are there and who are working tirelessly day in day out just to make sure that these deals go through so that we can have a great season ahead.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's hope we do.
Yeah, I know the next season is going to be massive. It's going to be incredible because I know teams are really vying to bring new talent, and I know especially in PSL we are going to see great games because I've been looking through like the talents that are going on from one team to another and the upcoming talents. It's just amazing. And can't wait to see how the games are going to be next season. Just hope that they run well and they give us more magic the way they've done this past season.
Yeah, we definitely hope so, and I think that'll be the case. And you can see there's quite a lot of exciting transfer news happening between clubs and players coming into South Africa. I know there's a few announcements that some clubs are going to make soon that I think is going to be quite exciting and good for the league. And then, of course, you've got a lot of good young players. We saw a lot of talent last season, sort of coming through. So that your Moffat Ken. We'll talk about this shortly, I'm sure. But your Moffat Kings, for example, at Pirates, your Chandre Campbells from Super Sport, one or two other exciting young players that are coming through at clubs like Stellenbosch, Cape Town City. So, yeah, I think there's a lot to look forward to coming up.
Yeah, and today I just want us to talk about the PSL awards that are just ended, and we just do a recap. And you've talked about Mofenge and Campbell, and they are two incredible young players, and they are really promising. Who do you think? Like, I know Mofenge won the young player of the season, but do you think Campbell deserved it?
I think it was very close call between the two. I think I can understand why Mofokeng did get it. I think probably if you look across the whole season from the start to the finish, and you look at the numbers, that Mofokeng probably did edge Campbell. But I think Campbell is a really exciting talent, and I think he's a player that if he can really progress in the next sort of 12 months or so, we can definitely see him moving to Europe. And I think he could become one of the most exciting talents coming out of South Africa. But having said that, look, I think probably if you look at an entire season, that Mofokeng probably did deserve the award, and I think he too is an exciting talent. And again, if he gets the right guidance and keeps focused and keeps progressing the way he is, then again there could be opportunities for him outside of South Africa.
Yeah, I know. They are two both incredible young players, and they are just, what they're well, I put their performances on field is just incredible at that age, and you're doing the numbers that they have. It's just incredible. But to me, yeah, Moffin has like his stats are a bit higher, but when you come on the field, when you're not looking at the stats and everything, I think Campbell has a better run. He's a hard worker on the field. Like his runs and everything. He's just an amazing player to watch. I've been going back like yesterday, and as I was watching some clips like from last season and how he was performing and everything, and you just enjoy. I just enjoy seeing him. Yeah, I believe Mofeng has the stats, the numbers that he has put make him a better player. But on the pitch, the hard work and everything, I think Campbell has a slightly better run than him. So to me, I know players and the coaches and everyone voted, but at the end of the day, Mofeng also Campbell also had something to say, because he has also to be appreciated for what he has done, on the field, and he's a great player. And as you've said, in the next couple of season, maybe two, or maybe this same season, we might see him in Europe. So that's the thing. I believe that he's destined for greatness as when he continues doing what he does on the field.
Yeah, I think he's got the technical ability, and I'd actually argue I think he's got more. I think he's technically ahead of Mofokeng for me, and I think some people might argue differently there. But I think Campbell is probably more suited to moving to Europe. But I think the difference this year was probably the numbers, and I think what Campbell needs to do this year is add a few more assists, add a few more goals. He's got it in him. I think he's shown this year that he's got the ability to maybe affect a little bit more in terms of goals and assists and output. But I think if that comes this year, then definitely we'll see him getting opportunities outside. And I definitely think technically he's good enough to play in Europe. So yeah, look, I agree with everything you're saying. And let's see how the next 12 months. It'll be interesting to follow the two of them the next 12 months. And the other boy that I actually quite like, who wasn't nominated, but I think has a great future as well, is Jaden Adams at Stellenbosch. And I think he's somebody that has got output. I think you see he had assists and goals last season. I think he's another exciting young talent that also could have a future outside of the continent as well.
Yeah, but also another nominee of the young player of the season was Ime Okon, who teammate for Campbell. He also had a good run through the season. He was slightly not that bad, but these are young lads who are really putting in hard work. So I was I was surprised that Mofeng won the recognition, but I thought personally, I thought that Campbell was going to make a better run and maybe win win the recognition. But players and the coaches are the ones who voted, and so that's it. Moving forward to footballer of the season, I know Ronwen Williams deserved the recognition, but there is this name that I thought that was supposed also to be among the nominees, Patrick Maswanganya. I believed that he as a midfielder, he really had a good run. just seeing him play in the midfield was amazing, and I was surprised that he was not nominated. Because throughout the season he dominated the midfield as a midfield. He dominated in each and every game he played. He just made a better run. What do you think? What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, there was certainly a lot of noise about him that he should have been part of the nominees, and I think nobody can argue that he had a very very good season. He had a very big effect on Pirates and their success this season. Obviously, I think that was reflected by the fact that he won the Players Player award, and sometimes I think that is a better reflection than the Player of the Season award, because when you're recognised by your fellow players as the best player, I think that sometimes means a lot more.
Yeah,
So definitely, I think there was definitely a lot of surprise he wasn't part of the nominees. Whether, and I could be wrong here, but whether that's because he was always likely to win other awards, maybe they left him out of that one. I don't know if that's likely or not, but I mean, certainly, I think he would have been very, very close, not just to being a nominee for Player of the Season, but actually winning the award.
yeah,
Um, when you look at Williams, and nobody can argue that Williams is a very talented goalkeeper. He's obviously got very good numbers in terms of clean sheets. He had a very, very good AFCON, as people know. Um, and I think there was a lot of debate about, should you give Player of the Season to a goalkeeper or not? Is it unfair not to recognise a goalkeeper? And sometimes I think maybe that can sway people when it comes to the award. Now, what I would argue with Williams, without taking anything away from him, is how often is he involved in a game? How often is he winning matches for Sundowns? And while there's no doubt he's performed very very highly, when you're playing at a team like Sundowns who are dominating games normally on the front foot, win a lot of games. Maybe it has just as much to do with the team you're playing in than it has your own performances. So I definitely wouldn't take anything away from Williams, and do think he probably deserve to be recognised. But you look at other players on the list. You look at Reyners at Stellenbosch, who's now had a very, very good 18 months, and you would argue that his performances probably deserved a bit more. And playing in a team that at Stellenbosch, where he's contributed a lot to their really, really good season, and people shouldn't forget how good a season Stellenbosch had. And he was a major part of that, and he's been consistent now for the last 18 months in a league where goals are hard to come by. When you look at South Africa year in, year out, um, there's a lot of talk about the lack of goal scorers in South Africa, and he's consistently scored goals now for the last 18 months. So I think he's a bit unlucky, maybe also not to have won the award over Williams. And even Williams' teammate, everyone talks a lot about Paul McQuainer, and how much has he come on in the last 12 months? I think McQuainer is someone that people have talked about for a long time. He was always the next big thing when he came to Sundowns. They always felt like he was ready to be the next big thing. But I think he's really pushed on the last 12 months and had a brilliant season again for club and country. And I think any of the, not just the three nominees, but talking about Patrick as well, I think any of the four could have been winners of the award, and maybe, just maybe, sort of Reyners or McQuain or even Patrick may have been more deserving of winning over Williams. But that's not taking anything away from Roman Williams, obviously.
yeah. Okay, I understand, but I think they voted him as the best player, as the footballer of the year of the season, because of his performances at AFCON. I think that's what just they looked at that. They didn't look at because I believe Sundowns, as you said, they dominated the whole season. And the other thing is that they had a good defense. Like, their defense was unbreakable. Sundowns had the best defense. Conceding 11 goals in a season, it's not easy. So I think the defense is the one that made him look good. But yeah, and they say, I was looking at how the votings went through. They said that they only allowed coaches and players and staff members only to vote. So I don't know how the PSL award works, like how they put everything together. I don't know why they don't allow fans to come in and also have a say on who's going to win the award or anything. But I think, as you've said, Reina's had a good season. To
Yeah.
me, to me, it was incredible. And before me, like seeing the list of winners, and I saw first it was Rowan Williams. I was like, oh, they have given him because of the Afcon performances. That's the major thing they looked at, because at Afcons he was amazing. Was
Mm.
the amazing goalkeeper. I think without him, South Africa couldn't reach where they reached. But when it comes to the Premier Soccer League, I think yeah, there are other players who really had a better run than him. So yeah, to me, I'm really taking it away from him. I'm not giving it to him. I'm really taking it away from him. I don't think he deserved the trophy, the recognition. I think Reina maybe, and maybe Patrick, who they didn't put him in. But I think also Patrick was supposed to be recognized as a football of the season, or just a nomination could work for him, because I know he has dominated the midfield. Everyone I've talked to, I know a lot of people, they will agree with me that Patrick is really an amazing player. So it was really confusing to see William winning it, and Patrick is not taking anything home. Reina is not taking anything home. But they could recognize him as a goalkeeper of the season. I
Yeah.
think that one was amazing, because he has kept the clean sheets and everything. But when you come to him contributing to a game, when the game is being played on the field, his contribution was not that much, because the defense was there to protect him. He
Yeah.
didn't receive as many shots as other goalkeepers received. So that's my opinion. That's my opinion. I know you've said yours, but I think that's my opinion. I don't want people to be like, oh, maybe this. Why are you taking it away from him? But my opinion, I think he doesn't really deserve the goal. Yeah, he did well in Afcons and everything, but in the PSL, I don't think he deserved it. So let's move forward to player of the season. I think Patrick goes with it, no doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they have seen him as a better player, and me personally, I see he's the better player. Do you think any other player could also you could put in as a player of the season?
No, I think he's a worthy winner, like we've just talked about. And like I said, sometimes it's better to win the Players' Player of the Year because you're being recognised by your fellow players. And again, you look at the other nominees; it's the same players that win the Player of the Season: Williams and Reyners. Um, I still feel like Reyners probably deserved some recognition for the season he had. I think he's a bit unlucky not to walk away with anything, but I think Patrick is a worthy winner of that award for the same reasons that we've talked about just now, and perhaps getting that player award makes up for the fact that he wasn't even nominated for player of the season.
Yeah, true. I know that. Then the controversial one that I think I believe that this one was a good one. Coach of the season,
Mm.
it going to Mokoena of Mamelodi Sundowns. I think it was he deserved it. He's a young coach and everything, and how he has just come and dominated the season. It was amazing to see him just do that, and I think he deserved it. What do you think?
Yeah, well, look, any team that can go a whole season, well, almost a whole season unbeaten. Obviously, they lost that record on the last day of the season,
Yeah.
but to go a whole league season pretty much unbeaten is very difficult for anyone to do, no matter how much resources you've got. And I think that definitely takes a good coach to have that record. Sundowns again, they had another good season in terms of they also won the African Super League, or the African Football League as it's now called. If you remember, there'll probably be some argument about other competitions that they maybe feel they should have won and didn't win. But also for me, another coach who I felt deserved real recognition, and probably would have been my pick slightly ahead of Rilani would have been Steve Barker. I think the season that Stellenbosch have just had, the way they've been consistently pushing at the top of the league. Now, remember, they went on an extremely long unbeaten run during the season. I think it was 20-25 games at one point they were unbeaten, which, in a league with Sundowns, Pirates, Chiefs, albeit Chiefs being, underperforming this year, but other big teams as well that are consistently pushing at the top. To be able to go that long unbeaten in the league, to be pushing at the top 2 or 3 all season, and on top of that, have the cup runs that Stellenbosch had. Again, let's remember they won one cup competition and they almost went all the way in another cup competition. So they showed throughout the real consistency over the season. To push Sundowns to an extent. Okay, they didn't get close to them in terms of the league, but nobody really has now for a few years. But I think they've really set a marker this year for maybe being a team that can push on and chase Sundowns. And I think that shows what a good job Steve Barker did this year. And I think he's a very intelligent coach. I think he's good with the players, but also a very good coach. And I think when you look at Stellenbosch this year, for me, I would have given the award to Steve. That, again, not to say Rilani isn't a deserved winner. Results speak for themselves, but I just feel like the job. Sometimes you got to take into perspective the team and the job that you've done at a certain club, and I think Steve would have been a worthy winner. Another coach who I think, and I know there's a lot of controversy around him, but another coach I think that you've got to say had a good season. With the resources he's got is Ramovich at TS Galaxy. And the fact that they were pushing the top 5 or top 6, in fact, almost got a top 4 place and a CAF place until the last day of the season. And I think that's another coach that probably you need to give some credit for the job that they did. But for me, I think it came down in the end. I would have gone for Steve Barker slightly over Rilani. But certainly those two for me were the two main contenders for the award.
I don't argue with that. I also believe that Steve Barker really did a great job. What he has done is really really amazing, and his consistent run of 20, I think it was, yeah, as you say, 20 something games, that was amazing. Just to be in the resources at the club he is and everything, and to have such an amazing run, it shows that he is a great coach. And if he goes to a bigger and better club with better resources, he can even make a bigger impact. So I believe I agree with you that Steve had a really great season too. But numbers don't lie. That's why I think
Yeah,
Wani took the coach of the season.
sure.
So you Andy, I just before we just go to this other thing, I want to ask you, like, which game was really interesting for you during the season? Which game did you look at and you're like, wow, this is just the best game I've seen this season?
That's a great question, because it's hard to think off the top of my head what game it was. I mean, probably most recently, I thought the the Nedbank Cup final, was an interesting game. I think again Pirates showed their cup pedigree, and I think was a real reflection on how I think Pirates actually are not far away from Sundowns and probably should be closer to them in the league. I do like their coach. I think he's a good coach. I think I've seen Pirates play a few times last season. I remember watching them play down here against Cape Town City, and you can see they're well coached. They've got proper structure, pattern of play, good system. They've done really well to get the best out of Mabasa, I think, in the second half of the season. But for some reason, Pirates can't quite consistently do it in the league. And if they can put that together, there's no reason why they can't push Sundowns all the way, I think, in the league. But in terms of cup competitions, they seem to get it right. And I think they show that shows they're not far behind Sundowns. And I think that Nedbank Cup final kind of, I think for me, showed how close Pirates actually are to Sundowns. and how if they can get a bit more consistent in the league, we could have a really interesting title challenge next year from them. And again, just to add to that, the drama of the game and the late winner, I think for me that was an interesting game. And I think I'll tell you another one I enjoyed watching, actually, again, involved Pirates, was Cape Town Spurs played Pirates quite back in about October time. I don't know if anyone will remember, but at the time, Spurs hadn't yet won a game. I think they'd gone 8-9 games without a win. I don't think they'd even picked up a point at that stage, or maybe they'd picked up 1 point. And they played Pirates here in Cape Town and beat them. They really took the game to Pirates. They pressed high, got a couple of first half goals, and I thought for a team that was struggling and generally did struggle over the season, it was really interesting to watch them play and play the way they did against Pirates and beat them. And I think again shows the unpredictable nature of football in South Africa, but again probably showed the deficiencies that Pirates had in the league in terms of consistency and beating the smaller teams. But that was quite a standout game for me as I was there at the stadium for it.
Wow, that's amazing. I personally, I think the Soweto Derby for me is always like season in, season out. That is always the game that I always look out for, because every team comes in when they really want to show off what they got. So for me, season in, season out, that is the game that I'm always looking out for. Like it really talks to me, it speaks to me, and I really love to watch that game.
Yeah, I think
But
on the Soweto Derby, I think it's not always the best game on the pitch. I think sometimes, like these big games are, like derbies are, and like sort of you see it in cup finals sometimes as well, where games can be a bit cagey. Nobody wants to lose. But I've experienced the Soweto Derby, and certainly I've watched football all over the world, but the Soweto Derby's right up there in terms of atmosphere and everything that goes around it. So it is always a really exciting game. I think it's watched by millions. It's obviously attended by the best part of 90,000 people. The atmosphere is brilliant, and I think it's what's a shame is that you get that in a Soweto Derby, but then you look at other games in South Africa and the fan culture around other games where you've got sometimes 300, 400, 500 people in a stadium, and it's just a shame you can't have more atmospheres like that Soweto Derby.
I think that that's because like the atmosphere in the Soweto Derby is really incredible. They always bring people from everywhere, because I know there are some people who even come from East Africa, from Uganda. They go watch the Soweto Derby because it speaks a lot of volume. It brings people together, and every team really doesn't want to lose. That is just like I think I believe personally, and because of the numbers again, the Soweto Derby, I think it's the biggest game in the whole of the whole continent, because there are no other two clubs that can bring crowds the way the
Yeah.
Soweto Derby brings. It's really amazing to just see the atmosphere and everything. I know on the pitch sometimes it's always not good, but the atmosphere just and everything, like everything going on. To me, it's really amazing. Yeah, it's really. I always look out for that. It's always amazing to see everyone coming out to watch the Soweto Derby. But I believe in the next coming few season, I believe we're going to have bigger numbers in the stadiums, because I don't know. I've just heard rumors that there are things that are going on behind the scenes, and they are really trying to see how they can bring more people to
Mm.
stadiums. And I still don't know everything that is going on, but I believe in the next few seasons we are going to have a lot of people who are coming to watch the games in the stadiums and also on TV, because I be I believe the South African league is trying to take in, like, it's the best league in Africa and people should be watching it.
Yeah, and let's hope so. I mean, hopefully there'll be more fan engagement, more reasons to to go to the stadiums. I think if you have a stronger Pirates and stronger Chiefs that can push Sundowns all the way, that's also good for the league and makes it more interesting. And obviously, more supporters of those teams go in numbers to games. But obviously, if you have more people attending games, it has a knock-on effect in terms of being able to bring sponsors in. One of the struggles at the moment for clubs is they haven't got real revenue streams. They're spending a lot of money on hiring stadiums, but not got people attending games. So if people are attending games, it increases match day revenue. It increases opportunities to get sponsors on board because now there's more viewership. And all of those things will contribute towards a stronger league and a stronger competition. So definitely, let's hope they come up with some ways to get higher numbers into stadiums, and I think that we'll see a real positive effect on South African football if that happens.
Yeah, and again, we hope that it happens very soon. So as we move on, who was the most promising player for you and the whole season?
I mean, look, I always think with that one, it's about the younger talent that are
Yeah,
coming through, and I think probably all the names we've mentioned already. I am excited about Chandre Campbell. I think he's someone that can go on and have a really, really interesting career. I think Jaden Adams is somebody also that can go on and have a very interesting career. Moffat King, Patrick. I think those four have really exciting careers ahead of them, and I really hope that we see all four of them push on again this year. It's good. I think it'll be good for South African football. It'll be good for the league. It'll be exciting for supporters to see that happen. And I also think there's a few players coming through now in the DDC teams, or the multi-choice as it was, and that's interesting to see. I attended quite a few games last season. I have a couple of clients myself that are playing in DDC teams, and one of them we're going to see in the Cape Town Spurs team this season, who I think is quite an interesting talent. You've obviously got Jody Ashen at Cape Town City, who's had a really interesting year and been promoted to the senior team, and obviously a few others who have had really good years in the DDC and are pushing into the first team now. And I think that's really exciting for South African football, because I think a lot of the time what's held back football here is development and the lack of development for youth players. And I think now the MDC has been running for some time. It's helping to produce more and more players and get more players ready for the PSL. And you just look at teams like Cape Town City and SuperSport last season, who traditionally are teams that are competing near the top and probably don't always prioritize having so many players from the DDC team in their starting 11, and both promoted quite a number of players last season. Cape Town Spurs consistently played 7-8 players under the age of 21 last season that had come through their youth system. So I think now we're starting to see a lot more success through that, and I think it's really exciting for South African football. And hopefully your Moffat Kings and your Campbells, your Patricks, hopefully this is it's not just a one-off. I think hopefully we're going to see more and more talent coming through.
Yeah, you're right. But you've said, I will. For me, the promising player was Campbell. Campbell was really promising, as you've said, and I can't wait to see him this upcoming season and to see what he's going to deliver. But I think Mofokeng is also one of the players that, if he continues with what he's done last season, I think he is going to be an amazing player, and maybe we might see him in Europe in the next coming season. But I think Campbell is the one who just has like the right. He's on the right path to play in Europe in the coming season, or maybe even this upcoming season we might see him leave the PSL and maybe play in the upcoming, because he's a really great player. The hard work he puts on the field and everything. It was just amazing to see him. And this is the other thing. Can you just do you have a first 11 that you think this is my best 11 of the season? Because they didn't have that. But who do you think, who are the best 11 players will put and you say these are my best 11 players?
It's difficult to put 11 together. I think we've talked a lot about players who have done well this year. We've talked a lot about the young players who have done well. Um, it's hard to see past a lot of the Sundowns players. To be honest with you, if you put out a first 11, you've probably got a lot of Sundowns players. But no, I think other players that we maybe haven't talked about a little bit. I mean, obviously you've got Grant Kakana, who at Sundowns had a very very good year at centre back.
Yeah.
Um, I think someone that you can't miss out is Mabasa. I think Mabasa's always had real potential, and I remember watching him play a number of years, a few years back now at Bloom Celtic when I used to obviously work in Lesotho, and I used to go and watch them play quite a lot, and you could see then that there was a lot of talent in the boy, and I think this season, especially second half of the season when he returned to Pirates, I think he's moved on another level now, and I think if he can be consistent, then he's got a big part to play next season, and I think he deserves a mention. We've already talked about Reyners. I think Reyners has now been consistent as well over the last 18 months. But there's a lot of players that you could talk about and probably would be pushing for first 11. I mean, I'll always be I'll also be a bit biased. I've got a very good relationship with Kamahelo Makocho, which a lot of people might know, and despite being 33 and coming back to PSL, I think he's still very, very consistent, and maybe one player that people don't realize so much what he brings to a team. And when you saw him playing for Sekukune last season, you saw what he brings. Another player that I like is obviously Madao, the right back at Sundowns. I think very, very consistent. Again, a player that could probably have played at a higher level. Whether he will now or not, I don't know. But he's been consistent for a number of years, and I think he gives you a lot, both defensively and going forward. So yeah, I mean, I think you could sit here all day and pick players that could make the first 11, but there's a few names I think that we can mention.
And another player I don't know you not talked about is Modiba. What do you
Yeah,
think about Modiba? Was he a standout player for you?
I think he's been a very good player for a number of years now. And you obviously don't have the career that he's had without being a good player. Again, I think he's had a very good season, but I think he's had a very consistent career, and I think now for a number of years, you can argue it could, to an extent. I think you could argue he's maybe a underrated player, because although a lot of people recognise how good he is, I think sometimes he goes under the radar a little bit more than maybe other players do. But yeah, definitely very consistent player, someone who always adds value. And there's a number of players in the Sundowns team as well that you can talk. Morena's another one. Pele Morena, I think, is another one that probably goes under the radar a bit, but whenever he plays, is very consistent and gives you something. So yeah, I mean, I think that we can talk about a lot of players that fall under that.
Yeah, I believe that, but I know it's really hard for a person like you, to come out with the 11. I think if we have like top 20 or top 30 players, you can name players that are really on that list. But to me, standout players, I think the one who was consistently, as we have talked, was Patrick, and also Makoena also was an amazing player to me. He'll
Yeah.
be on my 11. And before we go, this is just another off-topic thing that I wanted you to talk about. Did you watch the game yesterday? South Africa against Mozambique.
Yeah, so I actually had two games on at once. I had the South Africa game and had the Belgium game on as well at the same time. So I was watching both. But yeah, I always think with South Africa and Kasafa. I mean, this was pretty much a with and not being disrespectful at all, but you're probably looking at it being a C team for South Africa. Most of those players don't often get opportunities to play for South Africa, and have deserve their place based on their performances, but at the same time, probably wouldn't be featuring if it was a World Cup or AFCON qualifier. But it was, I felt it was a game they should have won last night. I thought it was a game that they, certainly dominated the first half. But I think CASAFA Cups I think it's another topic really. It's what is the right approach to the CASAFA Cup now, and I think everybody has different priorities. So when it comes to that, but yes, did watch the game, and be interesting to see how the next games go as well.
Yeah, to me, they really played well the first half, and I thought that maybe they were going to bring the players that we all know, we all are used to. But as you said, I was wondering who are these players, but they really managed to make a good run,
Yeah,
to dominate the first half. And I think when they dominated, when they came back in second half, they were a little bit off, they were tired, but they really had a good game in the first half.
yeah,
So I think their next game, they're really going to try to balance both the first half and the second half. But
yeah.
it was amazing to see them do that, what they did in first half.
Yeah, I think. Look, I also watched the Botswana Eswatini game yesterday, and again, no disrespect to those two teams, but they're both teams that you would expect South Africa, even with the squad they've got here, to win, and probably win quite comfortably. But yeah, it will be interesting to see. I was actually impressed with the Botswana goalkeeper, though. I don't know if you watched their game, but they had a boy, James, his name, plays in Botswana in the local league there, and he had an excellent game yesterday. So it'd be interesting to see how he does against South Africa. And that's the thing with CASAFA, is it is a good marker to see players in other countries. When you're playing teams like South Africa, how do they step up? Have you got players that can play well against PSL players, and that's what's quite interesting for me. So we'll see how the next two games go for South Africa.
Yeah, let's just wait and we see how the two games, that the remaining games are going to be. But South Africa is like the big team, and as you said, we expect South Africa to just win every game they play in COSAFA. But as you said, the players that they have brought in, these are really players who really don't get a chance on a bigger stage, maybe in the AFCON or World Cup. These are players who don't get that kind of opportunity. But it was really interesting to see these players making such runs in COSAFA. They are not really made to play maybe against a country in an international game, but to see them do what they are doing, it's really amazing. I can't say that it is easy, but what they bring on the pitch is amazing. So shout out to them. But thank you for that, Chris. I hope we have you again next week. Maybe when we talk about the COSAFA thing and everything. So I really appreciate you for giving us your time and talking about the PSL and everything and the players. Hope to catch you again next week. Any last words before you leave?
Brilliant. No, thank you for having me again. Been good to be part of your show for the last 2 weeks, and really enjoy talking about these things. And I'll certainly be watching CASAFA over the next week, and I might even get there myself for a few games early next week if I can. So yeah, be more than happy to have another chat sometime about the CASAFA Cup.
Okay, thank you very much. Hey guys, hope you like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Thank you. Hope I catch you on the next video. Bye.